this idea of switching the narrative in businesses and leadership, where it's not, we don't look at relationships as transactions and trying to figure out the right mix of what to give in exchange for work, but moving them into more of a social contract. I'm not sure how many people know what a I mean, they might guess what a social contract is, but let's give them like a real definition and maybe some examples.
Well, it's about the strength of the relationship, and transactions tend to be one-off. Even in business where there are a lot of transactions, like with a vendor, a longtime vendor, it's not just about here's the quantity, here's the price, here's the delivery date. You tend to have a relationship with the person on the other end who can maybe give you a better delivery date. It's not mechanical. It's not like AI. There's a person. And some days they have good days, some days they have bad days, and you work with them and there's a back and forth. And that's really about the relationship. And if I put it in more legal terms of what the contract is, there's two really key pieces to it that often get misunderstood. And it can apply to your employer-employee relationship. It can apply to your family relationship, actually any kind
Yeah,
of
there's a social
personal.
contract in every relationship,
Yeah,
and it forms
exactly.
lightning fast.
It does. It does. And, the first thing is about acting in good faith, which is honesty. If somebody is being dishonest with you, you're going to hold back a little. You're going to be a little more cautious. You maybe tell them one thing, but not another. And so it's not the same type of strong relationship. Right? Some of the fabric is being frayed because they're not being forthcoming. So that's a really key part about acting in good faith. The
Mhm.
other is the fairness piece of it, is acting in good faith and with fair dealing. Now, just when you have a vendor, you want to give them the right specs and the right information so they can deliver what's necessary. Well, with the employees, it's the same thing. And all too often, managers don't realize how they may be shortchanging that relationship because there are certain things that we expect. We expect to be able to contact people. We want them to be approachable. And sometimes people don't realize how their body language is really kind of stiff or stern, or the tone of their voice is cutting. They don't give the proper recognition. They may be reflecting a bias in how they treat or talk to someone. They don't
I
deal with conflict.
I have a good
Yeah.
example of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is coming from my husband, but I've always liked this story. My husband actually like loves people. Like he went infantry in the military, in the army, because that was where all the people were. And so, like you can tell he loves people. And so like he was working one day, and his commanding officer came in, and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" And this is back in the 90s, so like, there's not an internet really. It's not like dominating your life like it is today. Let's put it that way. Like there's still like paper and pen. And so his commanding officer comes in and is like, "Hey, I want to talk to you for a minute." And just like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Look, the men love you, but they feel like when they come in here to talk to you, they're bothering you because you keep holding a pencil poised to write." He's like, "Can you do me a favor and just put down the pencil when they come in?" And it's just like something that simple. Like
Yep.
he wasn't doing that intentionally. Like he probably was even maybe holding it because he's trying to hold the space where he was, like that task that
Hmm.
he's doing,
Right.
but wanted to listen to what they said. Like he would never have a problem with somebody coming in. But like that was all, and because they cared about him, they're like, "Well, we're bothering him. We don't want to do that."
Yeah, no, that's a great example. It's like that just holding that pencil made it appear to the other person like I'm interrupting. I shouldn't be here. Now's not a good time. And it really helps illustrate how those little types of things can be interpreted or misinterpreted. I mean, I had a story about someone who was actually a CEO, and he's going through the floor and he sees that somebody brought donuts in and he goes, "Oh, isn't this nice?" next thing you know, these donuts are appearing all the time. It's like it was just making a comment. And, when it comes from a person in power, it takes on another level of meaning. And which is why when managers and people in senior positions think they're joking or that's not what I meant, they really have to be careful about how they communicate. They don't necessarily have to be more self-aware of how things can be misinterpreted, so that they get the proper message across.
I think you're right about that, but I also think we have to settle into the reality that like these are such small things that sometimes people are interpreting that it's more we need like sure, let's make an effort to not make the obvious mistakes, put down the pencil. But we also have to just have the awareness that we could be screwing this up at any time and like be vigilant about watching where that is and then trying to correct because we're going to step into it. Like,
Yeah.
there's just no way that at some point we're not going to send the wrong message to somebody somewhere, and yet we still have to function.
Well, and that's very true, which is why conflict management skills are so important. If you realize, but based on somebody's expression that, whoa, something happened, maybe I did step into it, or there's other consequences that come about from a meeting or something that got said or got written or put out on the internet. The important thing is to be able to make the course correction.
Right.
Because if you let it go and go, well, that's not what I meant, and then just let it fly, um, things start to sort of metastasize. And so being able to make those course corrections, to be able to say, Cindy, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry if it was interpreted that way. How can we talk about it? To get it out there, because I think that also helps build trust so that if I do say something that's offensive, you feel confident enough to say, Hannah, what's going on here?
Yeah. There's a lot of safety in that, right? Like for an
Yes,
employee to say that to you means that they have, and you can muck it up immediately by having just a strong reaction, not even a negative
right.
reaction.
Exactly, exactly. And that's where that trust factor comes in, which is also so important to any kind of relationship. Because when that starts getting diminished, people have more and more distance. And when people create more distance and go turtle like that, they're not going to give you 1,000%. They'll do enough to get by, to not get fired, but you're really not getting the full value of what's on the payroll, what you're already paying for, their talent that is now untapped or not fully tapped. So I think that's why it's so important for leaders to learn to be more self-aware and maybe, get some coaching from somebody they trust who can say, hey, you got to do a little bit better. I mean, think about sports teams, and the coaches that can act. These people are talented, and so are the managers and the supervisors. But is there a way to improve? Is there a way to be a little bit better? And employees will notice and they will respond.